The Leader of the Official Opposition.
It was another busy week for the Premier, pitting herself as the leading opponent to the most pro-oil and gas jurisdiction in Canada. If the Premier is so concerned about Saskatchewan sending letters, here's some free advice you can consider. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. This is just so shocking, given she has seen Albertans actually shed over 81,000 jobs. I just can't get it out. She should try some things, Mr. Speaker, and here's some recommendations. Stop attacking energy and agriculture, stop the labour review, stop, reverse and repeal the NDP tax increases, stop shutting down coal, and stop suing Alberta power companies. Now, Mr. Speaker, does the Premier think any of these might be good ideas to stop my stuttering and to stop Alberta shedding jobs?
The Honourable Premier.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. What I do think is a good idea is that as Premier of the province, I'm going to promote Alberta. I'm going to stand up for Alberta. I'm going to stand up for why Alberta is a place people should come to, for the fact that we have the lowest taxes in the country by $8.7 billion compared to the next closest jurisdiction, for the fact that Calgary is a great place to grow and start and build a business, and that people shouldn't be leaving them, Mr. Speaker. And you know what? My Minister of Economic Development is not in Saskatchewan learning lessons from somebody trying to steal jobs from Alberta, Mr. Speaker. That's right.
First supplemental.
Point of order. Well, it sure would be nice, Mr. Speaker, to see the Premier get as angry about Quebec attacking the pipelines we need as she does about the Saskatchewan budget. It would be helpful indeed. Alberta now saw another multinational actually leave Alberta and wave goodbye to our province. ConocoPhillips now sees the United States as a better place to invest than Alberta is. The fact is, under this Premier, we've lost thousands of head office jobs in Calgary, and 30% of downtown Calgary is vacant, Mr. Speaker. How can the Premier not understand that her policies have had a direct hand in pushing businesses out of Alberta and into other jurisdictions?
The Honourable Premier.
Well, again, you know, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite seems very, very interested in cheerleading for Alberta's demise, Mr. Speaker, and I really believe that that ought to stop, Mr. Speaker. Now, the fact of the matter is that we've had two excellent homegrown companies expand their investment in the oil sands on behalf of all Albertans. I'm so proud of that, and I'm very happy to be able to work with them as we move forward in building a responsible, sustainable, modern, progressive oil and gas industry that can compete for years to come throughout the world, Mr. Speaker.
Second supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, just wait. You haven't seen anything yet. They're only 2 years into their mandate, and she should be more worried about other places than just Saskatchewan. Like it or not, the United States is our #1 competitor and has no carbon tax, is building lots of pipelines, and is stripping down costly, inefficient regulations for energy companies. Now, we are talking about tens of billions of dollars of investment that is either leaving Alberta or simply not coming our way and should be. Does the Premier not believe this is a serious problem, or will she just keep taxing and regulating Alberta businesses out of existence?
Honourable Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the consolidation and reorganization within the oil sands that the member opposite is chicken littling over right now is actually something that makes the business more efficient and more productive over the long haul. And let me just quote, Mr. Speaker, from the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, what they believe about the deal that the member opposite is so worried about. This deal signals a strong, long-term view of the value of Canada's oil and natural gas assets. Among our competitors for global oil supply, Canada leads in energy security, regulatory stringency, and environmental protection.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. Thank you. Second main question.
One way that this Premier likes to try and get rid of a problem is just to pile up debt. We've seen that, Mr. Speaker. There's no better example than the absolute debacle of their boneheaded policies with our electricity grid. Mr. Speaker, before the NDP, the balancing pool had a $700 million surplus. Now, because of the NDP and their mismanagement, it is set to cost Albertans over $4 billion. Yes, Mr. Speaker, $4 billion. That's more than what the NDP plans to scoop up from the carbon tax. How many more billions of dollars of debt will this Premier borrow to pay for her costly and failed electricity experiments?
Honourable Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, as is rather usual with a member opposite. He's taken a number and then grown it by, I don't know, 400 or 500%, whatever he pulled out of the hat at that particular time. But, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the work that we've done with the balancing pool, if we had not acted, average families would be forced to pay charges as high as $8.40 per month, and we kept those charges at 67 cents per month. And, Mr. Speaker, that's because our government is focused on ensuring affordability for Albertans, predictability for Albertans, and standing up for Albertans and having their back when the members opposite go ahead and sign a bad deal that throws Albertans under the bus.
Thank you. First supplemental.
Let me explain to the Premier and her Cabinet why it's their fault. They raised taxes on power producers without any consultation. NDP mistakes mean that Albertans, instead of getting big rebates from the balancing pool, are now on the hook for borrowing billions of dollars for electricity losses as a result of this NDP government's decision. And this NDP government keeps trying to mislead Albertans that their green experiments won't hurt Albertans. Well, they are wrong. They're clearly wrong. I'll ask again, how many billions of dollars of debt will Albertans have to pay for over the next decade because of NDP negligence?
Honourable Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it seems the members opposite really cannot restrain themselves from mansplaining to members on the other side, and I got to tell you. But let me just go over there and say to them, the fact of the matter is that a deal was signed, and these folks over there, it was a bad deal. It was a bad deal for Alberta consumers and for Alberta taxpayers, and those folks over there want to stand up to defend that bad deal, and they want to make sure that Albertans pay billions of dollars as a result of that bad deal. But, Mr. Speaker, what our government did is we said, you know what, we were elected by Albertans, we were elected to represent consumers, we were elected to represent investors.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. Second supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, this is a multi-billion-dollar screw-up that will cost Albertans big time for years and years. In November, the Premier said she was reasonably close to reaching a deal with Calgary-owned ENMAX after trying to rip up their 16-year-old contract, Mr. Speaker. It's been crickets since then, and the Premier wonders why she has a hard time getting any investment to Alberta. Well, will the Premier tell Albertans why her government is still suing Calgary-owned ENMAX, and how much this court case is going to cost Albertans suing ENMAX to sue other Albertans?
Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, we were very pleased, as part of the work that we did last fall, to be able to enter into agreements with 3 of the 4 power companies that were impacted by the matter that the member opposite identifies. As well, Mr. Speaker, we're continuing to work to support and protect consumers, and that's why we put a cap on electricity prices, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we are moving forward to ensure that Alberta consumers are protected. And, Mr. Speaker, we will not apologize for that.